today at the Dayton branch with Justin Baker. We're going to be talking about truck scales today and the capacity of the truck scales. So Justin, I'll just have you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, how long you've been with Brechbuhler, what do you do, just all the fun things.
Well, my name is Justin Baker. I'm the branch manager for the Dayton branch. I've been with Brechbuhler for a little over 15 years. I started as a technician. I worked in the sales role, and then I managed the branch here.
What specific structural advantages does the B-TEK Centurion Truck Scales offer in terms of steel thickness, deck plate design, beam construction, and protective coatings compared to Rice Lake Survivor or Mettler Toledo model?
I would say two of the biggest factors there would be the deck plate. The Centurion uses 3/8 inch deck plate, where most of the competitors use 1/4 inch or 5/16. So right out of the gate, that's a big difference. When you talk about longevity of a scale with that type of deck plate is going to last a lot longer than some of the competitors. I would say the other one, the big one, would be the cover plates and the way that they're oriented, making it easy to get access to each section where the load cells are. We can clean them out a lot easier. We can get access to them a lot easier when we're doing repairs, changing load cells, replacing cables, things like that.
How do these translate into greater longevity and resilience in demanding Ohio environments?
Specifically to Ohio, clean out's a big thing, and having the cutaway sides on the scale that allow us to kind of get access from the sides, but then also having the removable deck plate on the top over those load cells, that's a big deal. We're able to keep all that cleaned out. Those in the scale industry know that the cleaner you're able to keep the scale, the longer it's going to last. If you're able to keep it cleaned out, you're able to keep that dirt, debris, and moisture out from underneath the scale. It's not going to corrode as quickly. It's going to last longer. So the cover plates that we have and the way that it's designed with the cutaway ends and the centers, that helps a lot making it scaled.
We're going to talk about the load cell technology. How do B-TEK's CPD-M digital load cells and TRUDigital technology provide superior accuracy, reliability, and ease of replacement compared to the digital systems used by Rice Lake or Mettler Toledo's PowerCell PDX?
Sure. Now, B-TEK offers that type of load cell in an analog and a digital. The digital is what we try to encourage customers to go with. I can't speak too much to the internals workings of them, but the digitals are a lot more accurate in the way that they communicate from the load cell to the J boxes, and the indicator is all digital. There's no analog there, so inherently they're just more accurate. When it comes to eliminating downtime and things like that. So a couple big things are they're a lot less susceptible to lightning strikes because they are digital, using electricity there, or less electricity. So less issues with lightning strikes. It's a cleaner digital signal. One of the big factors that we like is a digital cell has a quick connect on it. That's how we connect the cable. With it being a quick connect, if you have to change that load cell, you're able to disconnect that cable and discard the old load cell and put the new one in. And you don't have to rerun the whole cable through the whole scale. So that's a big thing from the serviceability of it. It's a lot quicker to get a load cell changed. And then with it being digital technology, the brain is in the load cell and then also in the indicator. So you've got the calibration data kind of stored in two spots. So if you were to lose a load cell, you can discard that load cell and put a new one in. You're able to pull the calibration data from the indicator to that cell. And that allows us to get a scale up and running without having to do a full calibration. A lot of local weights and measures require you to test it anyways to make sure that it's accurate. But when it comes to downtime and getting a customer up and running quickly, we can do that really, really quick. Within 15 or 20 minutes of arriving on site, we can have the load cell swapped out, and then we can have a new one in. Vice versa, if we were to lose an indicator and we have to replace that, then we can pull the calibration data from the cells to the indicator and kind of have the same setup there. We don't have to calibrate the scale. We can get the customer up and running and then calibrate at their leisure.
So it's almost like a backup system, like a cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So for service and maintenance, from a service and uptime perspective, in what ways do B-TEK Scales design features make troubleshooting, maintenance, and repairs faster and less costly than Rice Lake or Mettler Toledo scales?
So I would go back to the digital technology being a big factor in that, and that we can swap the components quickly, we can get them up and running quickly. The troubleshooting standpoint, a lot of that diagnostics is included in the indicator itself. So a technician's able to get into that menu in the indicator, and a lot of times it will tell you what is going on with the scale. So depending on the type of code that it's throwing, the technician's able to get in there and say, is it a communication error? Is it a temperature error? And then a lot of times we can figure out what cell it is and what problems it's having, right out the gate. We don't have to do a ton of diagnostics there to determine what's wrong. And we can go right to that cell and address that and see if that fixes the problem.
Saves time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, from a downtime perspective for the customer, it's going to save them a ton of time, and then it's also going to save them a ton of money as well, because we're not on site having to diagnose nearly as much as we would out analog.
Okay.
In an analog scale, there's no diagnostics there at all. It's 100% on the technician getting on site and running through the checklist of what do our millivolts say? Have we owned the load cell? What does it say? And trying to determine that. And in a lot of cases, with an analog scale, multiple load cells could be bad. We have to go find every one of those. Whereas on a digital, if multiple scales are showing, multiple load cells are shown in error, we can see that.
But for the total value and long-term ownership, why does choosing a B-TEK truck scale through our local Brechbuhler team here in Clayton, Ohio, represent a smarter investment than purchasing a comparable Rice Lake or Mettler Toledo scale? Just talk more into terms about total cost of ownership.
Yeah. There's so many different points there. It's the longevity of the scale, how long it's going to last. We see the B-TEKs last a lot longer than the competitors just because of the way it's constructed. The 3/8 inch deck plate versus the thinner that's available in our competitors. The clean out is a big part of it. The digital technology is going to hold accuracy longer than the analog. So just from those few factors, they're going to get a lot more life out of the scale than they're going to get out of a Rice Lake or another Toledo. Another big factor would be, B-TEK has used the same technology in our Centurion and even our hybrid truck scales, for the last 20 years. They haven't changed that.
Okay.
When you look at a Mettler, you're seeing a change in technology every 10 years or so, and they phase those out. So they get to a certain point to where those load cells, those indicators are not even available anymore. So not only do you have to replace components, you have to replace all the components. And that's a big cost when you start talking about swapping out all the electronics on a scale. That's a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 price tag to do that. And B-TEK doesn't do that. And they never have. And even some of the technology that they've changed over time, it's compatible with what we're currently using. So that's never been an issue. So that's a big deal for customers that want to have a scale long term, is not having to look at those huge costs. And then the final one is just serviceability of it. We're going to spend less time servicing it. They're easier to clean out. All those things cost over time.
So for your technicians, they've worked on all types of different truck scales. What do they think is easiest to work on, holds calibration, and is rarely out of calibration?
Yeah, I think the technicians have some favorites, scales that they like to work on, but obviously at the top of the list is the B-TEK. We see so many of them. The digital technology makes it so easy for them to install, to calibrate, to maintain, service. It's an easy answer. They prefer B-TEK all the way.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.